Let's make something.
All in.
Woodworks! I was commissioned by a client to build a console display stand for their Viking shield. Now, this is not a request you get every day, so I was pretty excited to help create it for him. After some initial conversations and designs, we came up with a stand that would have a top large enough to accommodate the shield and some uplights. It would have a modern floating base, vertical uprights to support the shield, and 2 drawers for storage. I was also asked to find a way to use the stand as a regular console if needed in the future. We agreed to use alder for the wood, so I headed to my local hardwood dealer for all the supplies, and I got to work. I got a 6-inch jointer and 8-inch wide boards. Let me show you how to joint these up without buying a 12-inch wide jointer. Pass your board over the jointer until you get a flat edge. This will create a lip on the part that's hanging over the side of your jointer. Find a nice flat piece of plywood that will fit in your planer. Screw a block on the far end of it. When you flip your board over, you want that edge to be facing down off the lip of the plywood. That block will help prevent any kickback, and it'll pull the piece of wood through the planer correctly. Once you get one flat edge done, you can remove the plywood piece, flip the board over, and plane the other side flat so they're both even. Then just take it back to the jointer and clean up one edge, and then trim it to width at the table saw. And now the fastest panel glue up in history. The next morning I can take everything out of the clamps and scrape off some of the excess glue that's squeezed out. Wait, hold on, stop the video. Okay, what I didn't explain is that at the same time I glued up the panels, I glued up the 4 feet for the base. These are just 3/4 inch pieces glued together, and I'll cut them to size. I'm not going to bore you with a bunch of shots of me sanding these panels down. Needless to say, I started with 80 grit and worked my way up to 120 for most of the panels before I even thought about assembling them. I marked for one straight edge and then put it on my micro jig table sled. For the center divider, I decided to put my dado stack in the table saw and cut a stop dado for the top and bottom panels. finished the dados off with a hammer and chisel, and obviously I think I need to sharpen my chisels. For the side pieces on the back side of the cabinet, I had to cut a rabbet to allow for the back panel to fit properly and flush. Then I set everything up to connect the side panels to the top and the bottom, and I'm going to use my biscuit joiner for that. I haven't used this tool very much at all. It's actually my first time using this tool, so full disclosure. It works really well. You just have to make sure that you have the fence straight and on the wood itself, and make sure your depth is correct. And it's a pretty easy tool to use. I know a lot of people use dominoes, but I have a biscuit joiner, so that's what I'm going to use. And it's quite messy. Did I mention the part where if you don't have a vacuum system hooked up to your biscuit joiner, it can be quite messy? Did I? I can't remember. Well, it is. I put a nice chamfer on the top and the bottom panels. Then it was just a matter of dry fitting everything together, making sure all my angles were correct and everything was nice and square, and then I could glue it up. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Please make sure you hit subscribe and the notification button to see when my next video comes out. With the top all glued together, it was time to move to the base, and I decided to do a mortise and tenon joint for the base pieces, and I'm going to start cutting those out. There's a lot of different ways to do a mortise and tenon, and I think next time when I do this I'll actually make a jig for the table saw to cut the tenon pieces. It might be a little easier that way. I think they turned out pretty good. Time for the mortises, so I decided to use my router table and a 1/4 inch straight cutting bit to kind of help along that process, and it worked okay. That kind of got away from me there, but I learned on the other ones not to do that. For the center stretchers, I wanted to have them connect to the main rails with a half-blind dovetail joint and then curve up to meet the case, so it looked like the case was floating on the base. I kind of really like that look. It's pretty modern. Here I am making a template for that. If you haven't made templates, they're actually quite helpful to get all your angles and everything correct. A lot of people use a bandsaw. Unfortunately, I don't have one of those yet, but it's coming, so in the future that'll be a little easier for me. All in all, this worked out really well, and I'm really happy with how these stretchers turned out. So unfortunately, I forgot to hit record on some of the pieces of me making the dovetails, but just here's a shot of it going into the slot. It turned out really well though. And I don't know where my brain was, but I didn't get video of me gluing up the base, but this is me taking the clamps off. I guess that'll work. Did I ever mention I love sanding? I mean, I love it so much. It's so... Wait. Let's do something more exciting, like
cutting tapers on the legs.
Ugh, I'm wiped out. Okay, so back to the tabletop. I had to cut out a hole in the top of the table itself to accommodate a insert piece to keep this Viking shield from slipping forward. I made a quick template out of some scrap wood and used my router to cut out the hole. I'm extremely happy with how this turned out. Now it's time to make the insert piece, and I wanted to design it so you could flip it over and put it back into the top so you could use it as a regular piece of furniture if you wanted to in the future. I glued up a couple of pieces together to make a larger block and then cut it to size. Then I just had to sand all the corners off and cut out the pieces I didn't need. Couldn't ask for a better fit. Really happy with this. Thanks again for watching part 1 of this video build series. Again, please hit subscribe and the notification button to see when the next video comes out. See you in part 2.